We have caught before landlords putting crazy things such as they are entitled to 20% of the profits that the business produces. All right, so I am not a real estate expert, so take what I say with a grain of salt. I just know enough to be dangerous and have conversations, so make sure you are working through a lease with a couple different people. Number one, you can find a broker or somebody to help you find the location. A lot of times you can find it yourself. We use LoopNet, which is a place that you can look for leases that are open or even buildings and locations for sale, and reaching out to the brokers or even the property owners directly and working with them. But I would also recommend a good contract lawyer when it comes to real estate, a good real estate lawyer who can look over your terms, who can look over your documentation. We have caught before landlords putting crazy things such as they are entitled to 20% of the profits that the business produces, and they just slip that in there after iteration 3 or 4. So make sure you are studying and reviewing every single iteration of the lease when you are negotiating back and forth. One of the things you always want to look for is TI, tenant improvement. And you want to be able to make sure that the tenant improvement is going to actually cover the cost of the build out. A lot of times people will say, yeah, well, we have tenant improvement of $20 a square foot. And to actually build out a location, it might be $50 to $60 a square foot. And guess what? Everything above what they promise you is on you, no matter what. We got into this mistake because we signed a TI of $150,000 to build out a 1,300 square foot office. We didn't think it was that much. However, it was in a AAA rated amazing building, which had to have the 1 or 2 specific contractors, which charged a premium to work there, and it ended up being $300,000 to build. And guess what? $150,000 was on us. What we always recommend and what we do in our clinic is buy or rent second gen space. And what that is usually a failed clinic, or a clinic that got too big and grew, or a dental office that got too big and grew and moved somewhere else. Look for a place that's already been built out as a medical clinic or something close to it that you can make work. It might even be a room inside somebody else's medical clinic or somebody else's chiropractic office. Our first clinic was a shared office with a chiropractor who obviously wasn't doing any medicine, but we rented 2 of his rooms, which turned into 3 of his rooms, which turned into 4 of his rooms, which turned into us moving to a bigger location. Make sure you're also talking with the landlords and getting terms that are negotiable, meaning that the length of the amount of time that you're in a lease is, the term that the lease is good for. We always made sure that we sign anything that is less than 3 to 5 years, because if we outgrow it, move it, etc., we want to make sure we can move the location. We also want to make sure that there's some sort of way out of that lease. A lease break, sometimes you got to pay a penalty to break the lease. Any way that you can actually break the lease, you want to make sure that's in there. If you don't want to sign, unless it's just like a 1-year thing and you're going to be there for 1 year. Obviously, any business, brick and mortar, will be there at least 1 year. But a 3-year lease or a 5-year lease or a 10-year lease, you want to make sure there's some way to get out of that lease. The business falters, you move locations, you don't want to be paying 2 landlords for the same business. Trust me, I've done it before. So make sure you're negotiating TI, tenant improvement, look for second gen space, make sure you have some sort of out. And lastly, if they'll allow you to, never do a personal guarantee on a property. Always put your business or some other business as the signing entity. That way, if you want to move out or the business is bankrupt or anything like that, the business is bankrupt. It's not on you personally to pay the rest of that lease no matter what. I hope that helps. Those are the tricks of the trade that I know. Again, I'm not a professional, so make sure you hire one. That is the most important thing. Hire a professional contract lawyer to at least review your contract so you're not getting into weird things and they're not changing it at the 11th hour, which landlords love to do.